Yeah, there we go. So, one crazy and sick thing that I heard about recently, which takes us back to the dark COVID ages, is how one person who is responsible for handing out tickets or something behaved in a way that a typical energy vampire would behave. I'll give you the full story, or I'm actually gonna give you the story as I heard it because I might have misunderstood a couple of things, but largely this is how I understood it. I don't remember the names of the people involved. I don't remember who or when it happened. I just know that it happened during COVID. Here is essentially what happened. So this guy who was telling the story wanted to go out and visit some island. And in order to visit the island, he needed to ride a ferry boat, right? So he went down to the shore, he went down to the wharf or the Angus or the dock where the ferry boat would where the ferry boat would dock up and wait for new passengers and new cars to enter the deck. And he had, I believe he had some voucher that he wanted to redeem to get a ticket or some such. Now, the woman doing the ticket delivery, the woman in charge of the tickets, she was sitting inside this glass box, this kiosk, this booth, right? And there was a thick glass wall between her and anybody outside. So they physically couldn't be in touch, right? So picture the following. The woman is sitting inside this kiosk. There's a thick glass wall here. The man or the other people were standing on the outside on the river bank. Excuse me, not the river bank, but the shore or whatever, right? So they couldn't physically be in touch. And I'm telling you, this woman behind the counter, this woman in the kiosk insisted that anybody who wanted tickets or anybody who wanted to buy from them or being serviced somehow needed to wear a mask, even though they weren't inside in the same room, even though they were outside. I mean, can you believe this craziness? It's so dumb. The people outside couldn't even physically touch her, yet they still needed to wear the mask. And in this case, it was nothing different. So, what did the guy do? Well, he started to argue and bicker first, as most people would have done, because he didn't wear a mask, and from my understanding, he was one of those who opposed the mask wearing, let's call it for what it is, the mask wearing dictatorship, because that's really what it was. It was so dumb. It was so silly. And truth be told, when you're talking to ordinary people, when you're talking to normies and NPCs about these times, these dark COVID times, forget the dark medieval times. We got the dark COVID times. People are still sort of brainwashed and go like, oh yeah, but it was probably necessary. I mean, wake up! No, it wasn't necessary to wear a mask just for a couple of sniffles. And wearing a mask, let's say you're sneezing inside that mask, you're sneezing and you're swallowing your own snot. What's so healthy about that? That's just dumb. Everybody knows that. And the mask doesn't protect you from the virus because there is an opening, there is an aperture between your nose and your cheeks. How do I know this? Well, because I was forced to wear these silly ass masks myself. Anyway, getting back to the point here. So this guy insists on not wearing a mask. The woman behind the counter insists that he has to wear a mask in order to get his ticket. So eventually he starts walking around, and by random chance he finds this mask laying on the ground that somebody had discarded. Like a dirty mask, which is gross. I mean, yeah, it's gross to find it there because it's trash, but it's even more gross what he did, which I guess I would have done too, to be completely honest, namely to put on the mask and then walk back to the counter and get his ticket. I mean, it's crazy. Think about that. That was probably way more unhealthy than getting COVID. Wearing someone else's snot. It's crazy, it's horrible. Why am I telling you this? What has this got to do with time and energy vampires? By the way, as of this broadcast, And so this video, wherever you're watching or listening to this, I'm introducing a new term, TEP. I just gotta call it TEP, time and energy vampires. There we go, TEPs. Those fucking TEPs. So that's how a TEP works. They will drag you down into the dirt. They will force you to do all of these silly things. They will make you follow their rules and guidelines, even though it's not necessary, just for the pleasure of seeing somebody else suffer. That's precisely how a TEP works. So if you learn to recognize how a TEP works, if you learn to recognize the traits of a TEP, if you want to stay away from a TEP, a time and energy vampire, then consider following me on my email list, because that's precisely what I'm doing. I'm teaching everyone how to deal with the obnoxious time and energy vampires, the TEPs. So get subscribed to my email list. The link to do so is below the episode description, wherever you're watching or listening to this. And with that being said, I'll see you later.